Hello and welcome to 5 Year Club video number 210. This will be the first story in book 5 of the Japanese Family Storehouse, Making a Clock in Slow Motion. And I've just put up the image, so you can see it there. Pretty cool old Japanese art. Let's get this started. Making a Clock in Slow Motion. The Chinese are a self-composed people and will never be rushed, even to make a living. They spend their time strumming the koto, playing chess, making verses, and drinking wine. In autumn, they stand by the sea admiring the moon, and in spring, for the reckoning day before the third moon is unknown in China, they make trips to the mountains to view the wild apple in bloom. In Japan, however, only a fool would try to imitate the lackadaisical Chinese approach to earning a living. Ha 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 ha. This is I guess funny. But yeah, so feudal Japanese attitudes towards Chinese. The clock was invented in China. Year after year, a man thought about it, with mechanisms ticking by his side day and night, and when he left the task unfinished, his son took over in a leisurely way, and after him the grandson. At long last, after 3 lifetimes, the invention was complete, and became a boon to all mankind. But this is hardly the way to make a successful living. When Conpieto sugar balls were first imported from Nanking, people examined them with infinite care and tried all kinds of experiments to discover the secret of their manufacture, but to no avail. At that time, a pound of Conpieto cost 5 manmei, but now that the women of Nagasaki have acquired the knack of making them themselves, the price has fallen steadily. The Nagasaki method is now widely known and has been copied even in the home provinces. The Kyoto confectioners had tried 1,000 approaches, but had never guessed that Conpieto could be made so simply, with the sesame seed as the key to the process. The first man in Japan to stumble to it was a poor townsman of Nagasaki. For more than 2 years he puzzled over the problem, and when he asked the Chinese themselves, and none of them had the slightest idea, he grew very disconsolate. Even in straight-dealing foreign lands, it seems, profitable secrets were closely guarded. He remembered the case of the imported peppercorns. Before being sent to Japan, they had been soaked in hot water, and no one had ever seen what sort of tree they grew on. No matter how many of these peppercorns were sown, nothing ever sprouted from them. It was not until 15 bushels were scattered at the same time, in some temple or other on Mount Koya, that 2 seeds took root and sprouted leaves. Now pepper bushes were fairly common. It occurred to him that these Conpieto, too, had seeds inside them, and he tried coating the seeds with sugar and molding them into balls. Then he wondered whether the trick might not lie rather in the preparation of the seed itself. He boiled a quantity of sesame seeds in sugar solution, and after leaving them to dry for several days, he scattered them in a pan and heated them. As the heat penetrated the seeds, it forced out frothy bubbles of sugar, and these grew of their own accord into Conpieto. 2 quarts of sesame seeds, used as centers, produced 260 pounds of Conpieto. It cost him 4 fun to prepare 1 pound of these sweets, and by selling each pound at 5 manmei, he made an overall profit of 200 kanmei in less than a year. Later, when people had learnt his methods and making Conpieto had become a routine part of every Nagasaki housewife's work, he abandoned the confectionery trade and opened a fancy goods store. Continuing to exercise his gifts to good purpose and working hard at his trade, he eventually found himself the owner of 1,000 kanmei, all made within his own lifetime. Nagasaki, the first city of Japan for fabulous treasure, is a busy sight when the autumn shipping calls and bidding starts for the bales of raw silk, rolls of cloth, medicinal herbs, shark skins, aloes wood, and curios of all kind. Year after year there is a mountain of merchandise, and not a thing is left unsold. Whatever it is, the underpants of a thunderclap, or knickknacks carved from demon's horns, it finds a buyer. No one who stands in this market can doubt that the world is wide. Chief among the merchants gathering here from all Japan are the sharp-witted dealers from Kyoto, Osaka, Edo, and Sakai, men who think in terms of loss as well as gain, ready to steady their money, chasing after clouds in a foreign ship but seldom losing in the long run. Each is a master in his own line, assessing an article at a moment's glance and never changing his mind. The clerks who make the biggest gains are those who can spend and still keep the books balanced. The conscious man who thinks too long of the expense always misses the money-making. Good opportunities seldom wait. The money from the home... Molly, off the brown. She's getting onto the brown of the couch. She's supposed to be on the green. Let's go fix this situation. Nope. There we go. And the cat has now been resettled. Let's keep going. Good opportunities seldom wait. The money from the home provinces would have a better chance of returning safely to its masters if there were no Maruyama quarter in Nagasaki. What may happen on the high seas is only one of the worries of merchants trading through this port. The tempests of love, which blow up without a moment's notice in winter, summer, spring, or autumn, are no less disastrous. One comfortless, wet evening, a number of clerks of different firms gathered together and passed the time telling how their respective employers had made their fortunes. Not one of these had grown into a rich man from nothing. There was always a seed which had started the process. The first to speak was an Edo man. My master started as a small trader in Tinmacho, he said, but one day he picked up 430 ryo, dropped in the street by a daimyo as an evil year offering. After that, he went on steadily to make a fortune. My master was not doing very well at first either, said a clerk from Kyoto, but he had a good head for business, and he made up his mind that the only thing was to change to a line that no one else had tried. He bought in a stock of funeral accessories, eboshi caps, pure white suits, plain unpatterned overskirts, and even palanquins for coffins, and he kept them ready for hire at a moment's notice. His takings soon mounted up. In time he gave up the business and settled himself in a cozy retreat on Higashiyama. People judge that he's now worth about 3,000 kanmei, and they're not far wrong. My chief was different from most men, in that he had settled on no wife to run his house, said an Osaka clerk, and if you think he refrained because of the expense, you're mistaken. He made exhaustive inquiries about widows, particularly if they seemed well satisfied to remain single. Most of them had grown a little unsightly here and there over the years, but he was not particular about that. His sole concern was to discover one who kept an ancient heirloom box. When he married, things turned out as he had calculated. His wife had a private nest egg of 30 kanmei. With this to help him, he found it an easy matter to change his line of business from selling paper to dealing in imported herbs, and now he trades with a capital of 2,000 kanmei. He seized his opportunity, and he went on to make a fat fortune. And now, as a successful townsman, no one dreams of criticizing him for the way he did it. All right, marry a rich woman. Okay, weird story now. All right. From these stories, it was evident that to become a man of truly great wealth was hardly possible unless you had more than the usual start. All of them, in their different ways, had done something extraordinary. People who buy imported goods at Nagasaki when the market prices are really low are sure of making a profit in good time, provided the goods are not the sort which deteriorate as the years go by. One man bought a baby alligator here for 20 ryo. It was about 2 feet long at the time, but within 10 years it had grown unmanageably bulky and fierce, and it proved a constant source of trouble to its owner. Another man bought a firebird's egg for 1 bankin, and when it was hatched, surely enough, the chick ate burning charcoal. Nevertheless, rare though such things may be, to buy them is a waste of the country's money. Okay, so don't buy a firebird, which sounds kind of like a Pokemon, to be honest. The title of this story, wrapping it up now, Making a Clock in Slow Motion. So that's kind of a dig at the Chinese. So this story basically says Chinese people are lazier than Japanese, and if you can make candy efficiently, you can become rich. And if you start out with some money, you're much more likely to become rich than if you don't, as long as you spend it on something that you can sell in time that doesn't deteriorate over time and doesn't become unmanageably bulky and fierce like an alligator. Yep. That very wise story. I can't argue with any of that except maybe the part about Chinese people. I think things have. I think some of the Chinese stories might say something different about Japan from the same time period. I should go find one of those. That'd be interesting. All right, that is it for 5-Year Club video number 210. 210, wow. 210. Have a fabulous evening.